absolutely know that we're going to help so many people today. Depression is not just the normal blues. Depression is an ongoing condition that affects the body, the mind, and the spirit.
Some help. And that's what part of this book is for, to identify it. And then you start a pathway called SMART.
Yes.
Take us on that journey, Dr. Hall.
SMART is a Christian holistic plan for recovery. SMART stands for S-M-A-R-T. It's an acrostic that summarizes the treatment steps that I encourage people to go through. S stands for Stop Substance Abuse.
Okay.
Solomon said, "Who has sorrow? Who has bloodshot eyes?" And then he answered, "Those who drink too much wine." So wine, too much alcohol, addictions can lead to depression. And part of recovery from depression then is taking a look at that and finding ways into recovery. And that will also help with depression. I call it a depression-addiction connection. One feeds off the other.
Right.
If you're depressed, you might feel like drinking, and if you're drinking, you get depressed. And so an important step is the first step, stop addiction. My second step in the SMARTStep plan is Medicate chemical imbalances. Not everybody has a chemical imbalance with depression, but a lot of people do. In the more serious types of depression, it affects brain chemistry, and people may need a medication, an antidepressant that will correct serotonin imbalance and restore a normal, healthy kind of mood and healthy ability to think clearly. So that's step M. Even Christ said it's not the healthy who need a physician, it's the sick who need a physician. So, sometimes depression can be an illness, a sickness that we need a physician to help with. And next step on the SMARTStep plan is adjust expectations. At this point, I help people look at, are they putting too much pressure on themselves? Are they expecting too much of themselves? Overcompensating for the insecurities that we all feel. So in step A, I help people adjust those sources of anxieties and fears. Paul said, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And that's what I want for the people that read this book and for my own patients to experience that freedom, that sound mind, that power, that love that God has for them. And that could mean looking at expectations that have been rooted even in childhood experiences that we carry forward into adult years. And sometimes we're always trying to make up for things in the past or
trying to fix in our adulthood what went wrong in our childhood.
It can happen, and it can be a good thing. It can cause us to step out and work very hard to bring righteousness to the world, but it can also, if you in extremes, it can wear people down and lead to depression. So that's step A, adjust expectations. The next step is revising relationships. So relationship problems are a real common topic in a psychiatrist's office, a counselor's office. Relationship problems can be both a source of depression, and it can be a consequence of depression. People that are depressed pull away from their friends, and their friends say, "Why aren't you calling me anymore? Why aren't you going out anymore?" So relationship problems can be both a cause and a consequence of depression. Christ said, "Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you." A really good model for relationships. But sometimes we have trouble doing that. Sometimes we have trouble forgiving people, which is certainly scriptural. And so in breaking through depression, I walk through people through a process of forgiveness. It starts with expressing themselves and really telling God and telling the other person how they've been hurt. And it's a complicated forgiveness. For most people, it doesn't happen in one day. It's something they work on it, and then when they feel that the resentments are building back up again, you have to take them to God again. And I guess Christ said 70 times 7 is how many times we have to forgive somebody. And in my mind, that can be one insult or it can be many insults. And for people that have been really hurt in childhood, sometimes they have to forgive their father or their mother anytime that thought of resentment comes back in. So that's step R. And the final step brings in our Christian belief and brings God to the depressive problem. And I call it tracking with the Holy Spirit and trusting in God. That's step T. I think we need the Holy Spirit. God has given us a comforter. God has given us a guide. And depression is a real complicated personal problem, and I believe the Holy Spirit can guide us into answer the tough questions. Am I depressed?
Right.
Do I need to see a counselor? Do I need to see my pastor? Do I need to see a psychiatrist? So I think the Holy Spirit should be a part of all these other steps that I've mentioned, and as we bring these questions to God.
Because He can help us unveil them and show us that we might be in denial over. We have to take just a short break, but we're going to come right back because I really want us to tear this apart and look at this SMART. SMART. S is the substance, the abuse, and sometimes it might not just be chemically, it might not just be alcohol or the drugs, but it could be overeating, it could be overspending, it can be hoarding and cluttering, it can be overthinking and analyzing. It can be so many different things that we're addicted to. Then the M is the medicating, that sometimes we need the help to bring our body into alignment because you're doing all the right things, but your body's out of whack, and there's nothing wrong with God using a tool that perhaps you thought, I couldn't do that, but God uses many different ways. Then there's the A, the expectations and aligning those. The R, the relationships. In fact, they say the number one way to come out of depression is by healthy relationships, and that has played such a part of it. As he said, sometimes it gets us in depression, sometimes it's the consequence of depression, and then T, it's tracking with the Holy Spirit. So we're going to get God involved, and we're going to come back so you can get smart. We'll help you.